Hey, my name is Claire, and I never thought I'd be telling this story. Not like this. Because the truth is, I was fired, not for doing something wrong, not for missing deadlines. No, I was fired for being pregnant. But this isn't just a story of loss, it's a story of rising from the ashes, a story of building something greater than what was taken. Because the same woman they threw out, she's now a CEO, and I want to take you through that journey. Every tear, every fight, and every victory. It was supposed to be one of the happiest moments of my life. I'd just come back from my first ultrasound, tiny image in hand, and butterflies in my stomach. 6 years. That's how long I had worked my way up in this company, from an entry-level assistant to a key strategic lead. I had survived layoffs, taken on projects no one else wanted, missed birthdays and holidays, and now, I had news that would change my life, forever. He walked into my boss's office, heart pounding but smiling. "I'm pregnant," I told him. There was a long pause. Too long. He offered a short congratulations, then quickly changed the subject. Something in his eyes shifted. I left the meeting with a strange unease, but I tried to brush it off. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe everything would be fine. 2 weeks later, HR called me in. They said my role was being eliminated as part of a department restructuring. I felt my heart stop. I asked if I had done something wrong. The answer was robotic. No, nothing wrong. It was just business. But a week later, I saw a job posting for my exact role. Same responsibilities, different title, and the woman who filled it, young, energetic, not pregnant. I was devastated, furious, confused. How could they do this? How could they smile to my face, congratulate me, and then take away everything I had worked for? That night, I sat on the floor of the nursery my husband and I had just started painting. The pale yellow walls blurred through tears. I felt empty, but in that silence, I began to research, and what I found made my stomach turn. I wasn't the first. Women everywhere were quietly being fired, demoted, or pressured to quit after announcing their pregnancies. And yet, under the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, this wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. Still, companies hid behind vague excuses, legal jargon, and silence. But I couldn't stay silent, not after everything, not when I was carrying life inside me, not when so many others were being robbed of their dignity. They took my job, but they wouldn't take my voice. In the first few days after being let go, I was paralyzed. I'd sit at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a cold cup of tea, replaying everything in my mind. Every meeting, every email, every tiny moment that might have hinted at what was coming. My husband tried to comfort me, but even he couldn't quite understand the weight of what I was feeling. I wasn't just out of a job. I was being punished for creating life, and no matter how I turned it around in my head, I couldn't make sense of it. But then something inside me shifted. I remember waking up one morning, still exhausted, still sick from the pregnancy, and realizing, I couldn't let this be the end of my story. I wasn't just a victim. I had worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to let this be how it ended. So I got to work. I opened a fresh notebook, and started writing everything down. Dates, names, conversations. I pulled my performance reviews, every single one glowing. I saved every email that proved my value to the company. And then, with shaking hands, I searched for a lawyer. I'll be honest, I was terrified. What if they laughed at me? What if I was wrong? What if speaking out destroyed my reputation forever? But the woman I spoke with didn't flinch. She listened, really listened. She told me that what had happened was wrong, that it was discrimination, and that I wasn't the only one. Together we filed a complaint with the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. I had no idea how long or hard the road ahead would be, but for the first time since losing my job, I felt a flicker of hope. Still, I needed more than legal action. I needed a lifeline, so I started talking. I joined online forums. I reached out to women's advocacy groups. I shared my story anonymously, and to my surprise, people responded. Dozens of women messaged me. Some were crying, some were angry. All of them had their own stories of being pushed out, passed over, or punished. Suddenly, I wasn't alone anymore, and that changed everything. This wasn't just about me now. It was about every woman who had been silenced, sidelined, or erased. I didn't ask for this fight, but I was ready for it. I wish I could tell you that once the legal wheels were in motion, everything got easier, that the system stood up for me quickly, that the truth was enough. But it wasn't. What followed was one of the most exhausting, emotionally draining years of my life. The company fought back, hard. They denied every allegation. They claimed my role was removed as part of a pre-planned restructure. They painted me as emotional, as confused, and even accused me of trying to exploit my pregnancy. Some days, it felt like they were putting me on trial. I was pregnant, growing, glowing on the outside, but silently battling stress and anxiety that threatened to overwhelm me from within. I'd sit in depositions with my swollen belly, feeling the stares of corporate lawyers who looked at me like I was the problem. I remember one of them asking, "Do you think your personal choices may have interfered with your professional focus?" I had to bite my lip to keep from screaming, but I didn't give up, because every document we submitted, every statement from colleagues who saw what really happened, it all began to stack up. We had the truth. We had proof. At home, things weren't easy either. I was preparing to become a mother while battling a giant. Late nights weren't spent decorating the nursery. They were spent reading legal documents. I gave birth in the middle of it all, and there I was, 3 weeks postpartum, running on 2 hours of sleep, breastfeeding with one arm, while taking calls with my attorney in the other. But every moment of exhaustion reminded me why I had to keep going. This wasn't just about a paycheck anymore. It was about what message I would send to my daughter. Would I teach her to stay quiet when mistreated, or to stand tall and push back when the world tried to diminish her? There were days I broke down, but I got back up, because I knew I was standing on the front lines of something bigger, and they had to establish a monitoring system to ensure pregnant employees would never again be treated the way I was. For once, the system worked the way it was meant to. When the court officially ruled in my favor, I felt something release inside me, the weight of fear, humiliation, and powerlessness. It lifted. I had taken on a corporation and won. But more than that, I had protected the woman coming after me, the next employee who might be sitting in that same office, her hands trembling with hope, saying, "I'm pregnant." Now, she wouldn't have to be afraid. I walked away with more than a victory. I walked away with purpose. People started reaching out. Women, lawyers, journalists. They wanted to know how I did it. Some shared their own stories. Others wanted to fight too. I began to understand that what I went through wasn't just a personal tragedy. It was a turning point, a catalyst, a chance to build something better not just for me, but for others. Looking back now, the money feels secondary. The real win was taking back my voice, tearing down the wall of silence, and forcing change in a place that thought it could quietly erase me. They underestimated me. They fired me, thinking I'd disappear. Instead, I became unstoppable. After the dust settled and the case was closed, I stood at a crossroads. I could have taken the settlement money, licked my wounds, and tried to quietly slip back into corporate life, find another job, somewhere new, somewhere safe. But something inside me had changed. I wasn't the same woman who had walked into her boss's office over a year ago, smiling with news of a pregnancy. That woman had been hopeful, trusting. This woman, she was fierce, focused, unapologetically done asking for permission to exist in someone else's system. So I made a decision. If the corporate world didn't have space for working mothers, I would build one that did. I started with a notebook and a laptop at my kitchen table. My daughter napped beside me in her bassinet, while I scribbled ideas between feedings. I reached out to every woman who had contacted me during my case. Every story, every cry for help, became the blueprint for what I needed to build. I didn't just want to run a business. I wanted to build a movement. I launched a company focused on workplace equity and re-entry programs for new mothers, helping women return to their careers after maternity leave, and helping companies reshape outdated policies to truly support working parents. The work was personal. Every client reminded me of the woman I had once been, scared, silenced, but deeply capable. The first year was hard. Money was tight. I second-guessed everything. But word spread. More companies reached out. More women referred others to us. We were filling a gap no one else had bothered to bridge. 2 years in, we moved into a real office. 3 years in, we expanded nationally. Now, I'm the CEO of a growing, thriving firm that stands for everything I once thought I'd lost. And the best part? My daughter grows up watching it all. She's 4 now, full of questions and curiosity. Sometimes she sits across from me during video calls, coloring while I lead meetings. Other times she proudly tells people, "My mommy helps other mommies go to work." I smile every time, because this story, it's no longer about what was taken from me. It's about what I created because of it. They tried to end my career. Instead, they lit the fire that built my legacy. And if you're watching this thinking your story is over, it's not. You're just getting started. Have you or someone you know faced workplace discrimination? Don't stay silent. Drop your story in the comments. We're listening. And if this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. Because together we're building something stronger. And we're just getting started.